Yeah.
It's in the folder. Not that one. Next one. Yeah, take a minute. That's why I gave you guys. I only gave you an agenda. I figured you had your minutes. I'm
Yeah,
not
I did.
reprinting it, like unless you guys really need it.
Nope,
Okay.
got it digitally already.
Although I have
Yeah,
a
we
set
just
of
need to,
minutes here, but
You need to
Sign
adjust.
that.
Yeah, so after you open the meeting, I need to add an item to our business bank thing. We need to talk about our letterhead. So open the meeting first, and I have new agendas for you if we are okay. We'll talk about it.
Call this being George, 7:01, I'd ask for it to open with a.
We are going to do a loving kindness meditation, which is a tradition in many different groups of people. So if you wish to join me, you may, in closing your eyes and taking a deep breath. And the first step is to visualize for yourself, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be filled with peace. And then to think about everyone in this room, sending them good, kind, loving thoughts. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be filled with peace. And then to our entire earth and our land, our water, and all the people that we represent, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be filled with peace.
All right, thank you, Rick. Public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. Review and approval of the minutes. Is there any? Can I have a motion to approve?
Seconded.
And moved and supported. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment.
I think it's just Natalie, so Natalie, unless Natalie has any public comment.
no news is good news.
Alrighty. And what agency reports are we doing this? Do we have a standout one, or is it just for record what we present?
Yeah, so today, it'll be just for record of what you were sent. We have Pam Evans here, who is going to be our highlight. We're going to talk about the strategic plan. So rather than double up on that time frame, be a nice one to put in for our monthly highlight. And then I do have a request to add a agenda item to our agenda. When Matt and Dave and I had gone to the bank, we had ran into some issues with our legal name. And I'm sorry, Doug. We had ran into issues with our legal name and then the Ottawa Conservation District. So we need to have some conversation around that. So I added it to the agenda, and I think we need a motion to add it.
Yes, I believe we do.
I'll make a motion to add it.
Where are we adding? it?
I'm going to put it under financials, and I did print off a new agenda for you.
Doesn't it have to be our letterhead? that
It will
says
have to
that?
be on our letterhead.
Yeah.
When we get to it all.
It's Ottawa Soil and Water.
So we'll
That's-
handle
That's the
that.
official name.
Conservation District. Yeah,
That's
it's
what
been
we're-
our name forever.
It's
Okay,
what it's
but
in
we're
our-
calling ourselves Ottawa Conservation District. Is that calling us?
It's
causing
supposed
us
to
slight
be
hiccup?
known as Ottawa
Yes,
Conservation.
and
Like
so
the
it has
DVR.
caused issues with getting us in the
No
bank account.
ones.
Okay.
It's some new bank stuff. They won't even let them get on the checking.
Anyway, here's my new agenda.
Are we at, so this is
He
in the
made a
new agenda?
motion to add it. I'll second the motion.
All those in favor of adding,
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, support,
opposed?
voting.
It is added. So it's in here, correct?
It is now on your new
Yep.
agenda. Yep.
How did I?
And
I'm sorry, he gave you two.
But it's got to be the one who signs that he took from the bank. It has to be this.
we have to,
Oh,
if we
right,
officially
wait.
make it official, this is the minute. It'll be in the minute. And then I can put it on the letterhead, and then he'll sign the letterhead.
Okay.
Board update.
Thanks for you guys. Anybody have any updates they wanna
I
share?
have an update. Reached out to the Georgetown and Coopersville Library to do a groundwater presentation sometime in the next 6 months. Just to continue to get the word out about the situation. I see a lot of good stuff going on in the county where people are letting their grass grow up tall. So that's cool. I think where we need it though is in the center of the county where that message just hasn't quite.
Who's gonna give that presentation?
I-
Is,
Would you like someone to come, would you like one of our staff members to come and be part of it with you and be able to support you in your presentation?
That would be fine. They want to. It's on Wednesday, October 5th.
I think when we reach out and we've had some of these conversations, Kelly, that's, I'm gonna say, for the board to decide and kind of steer our people who work for the conservation district, not guide it. And their expertise and their education and experience to give them presentations. So, I mean, I'm gonna say foul, and kind of call that the way it is. So I think we ought to have
I
something.
think we've already talked about this issue. We talked about it months ago when we talked about our disclaimer. And so
And what was the outcome of that conversation in your
That-
eyes?
that I was to use a disclaimer whenever I gave a presentation.
No, you were to use a disclaimer when you introduced yourself as Ottawa County Conservation District, not to go out and give presentations as Ottawa County Conservation District. So I don't care if you do them, just don't tell them you're with us or you're for us, that type of thing. I mean,
That
I
doesn't
think,
make sense. We've already had this talk.
yes, and you are not an employee of, or you're in a guidance position.
Well, I would say part of our strategic mission is to spread awareness. I think having staff members when they're available is a great idea because there's just a knowledge base that they have that obviously none of us have individually. My immediate thought about that would be budgetary, because I would never want to ask any of our staff members to work for free. So if there is a budget to support that and there are staff members willing to do it, I think that's definitely a best case. But I do think should be all of our role in both the way our board responsibilities are written as well as our strategic plan. That all of us should be talking to the community about the work that's being done.
But not as a authoritative presentation of, of trying to theoretically educate. We're an advisory board to the conservation district. We have people within our ranks and who are employed by us, who that is their job to spread awareness and do them things. Us as a board,
We've put this in our strategic plan that the board needs to take more of a step in raising awareness for our
but we're
programs.
not experts in that field. We cannot
Are we
go
all
out.
required to be an expert?
Yes, if you're gonna give a presentation.
Well, I've given this presentation 3 times.
And I
So?
also understand from the conversations that have happened before is that the slides were already reviewed by staff members for accuracy of information. I think all of those are good steps. I think if any of us were out there representing ourselves as like the expert or even as the conservation district, that would be inappropriate. But I think to say this is why I have awareness of the subject is within my role. It definitely is within everything that is written down, that a big part of our role as board members is public awareness, supporting public awareness, getting out into the community.
Public
And I think
awareness
that's
of
important.
what the board, of what this organization does, not. If I sit on the hospital board, I can't tell someone how to do brain surgery.
Well, absolutely, but
Corey, I can't.
I don't
I
think
mean,
that.
I don't think I need your
Having,
permission.
having heard Kelly's
do if you
presentation,
go there
I don't
in the-
think that's.
No,
In the
not
I
what's
am
happening.
conservation district.
No.
Tim,
May I
I've already,
Tim,
I've already
Tim,
spoken my piece on this matter
Tim,
and it's just not, we're not gonna
excuse me.
change it.
May I
Tim.
interject? Here's my question. It's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen.
Tim,
If
you
we're
have the
wa-
floor.
If we're a watermelon company and listen a minute.
I
if
don't
we're a
know how
watermelon
any of these
company and we're selling
conversations is gonna
watermelons,
change what we've already talked about many times over.
Kelly, I would ask you to please give the rest of the people a chance to
So
speak.
that you can what? Tell me what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing?
But
I
if you
already-
talk
I
over us,
know.
that's good.
That's because I've already said before, this isn't where the conversation is gonna go and we're not going back there. And so I'm just not gonna entertain it. Now, we need to move on in the agenda. I will be doing a presentation at the libraries. I do not need your permission. That's the end of it.
Tim, what was your comment?
if we're a
Do I need to
water-
excuse myself from this
Yes,
board meeting?
yes, please would you?
Okay,
Please would you?
have a good evening.
Come back in 10 minutes.
No,
Oh. that's-
you can have fun talking about your little strategic plan. This is just beyond offensive.
Thank you. See
I've
you.
warned you multiple
Thank you.
times
Thank you.
that I wasn't gonna entertain this, and it's
Thank
just
you.
not gonna happen.
All right,
I can't believe
all right.
the amount of
Thank you.
disrespect. No, I am
Kelly.
speaking. I am
Oh,
speaking.
when you speak, no one else can, but when Tim wants to speak, then we've changed
Because
rules
you're
for Kelly.
infringing on my ability to do the things that I see fit for this organization.
What you see fit for
I
this
have almost-
organization, what this organization does are two different things. You are in a part of a group and an organization that moves together as one, not as a
Nobody's
Kelly.
interested in my contribution, and so I've decided to go off on my own and do with things that I want to do.
Then don't do it and under the guise of the Ottawa County Conservation District. Go out and do it.
Oh, well,
But
if
don't-
you would like to see my presentation or know more about the things that I tell people when I go out and do those
That was
presentations,
my point.
you may have that information,
That's
but
a-
you may not tell me what I can and cannot do. We've already had these talks.
Can I speak now?
Please, Tim, go ahead and speak.
If we're a watermelon company and we're selling
Is this
watermelons,
analogy prudent?
how do we know that you're selling watermelons for us and not selling muskmelons?
I guess you should have faith that I'm gonna
have a lot
deliver
of faith in
what
you.
you think I'm gonna do, which
I
is
have a lot
to
of faith
not
in you, but I think
alienate
it needs to
people.
be reviewed by the board before we send somebody out.
Well, the
as a-
staff
as a
reviews
representative.
it. The staff reviews those presentations. They've been in on everything that I've
Staff is
ever
not the
written.
board.
I don't need your permission.
I didn't say you did.
The fact that I include the staff is very important. I think that, I just can't believe that we're bringing this up again.
Kelly, when you put this sticker on, that means something.
I guess.
And you're not supposed to be there for personal gain either.
What is personal gain exactly?
Who nominated you to be the speaker for the conservation district?
Nobody. I nominated myself
So
and the people
Well,
that
all of
voted
us-
for me.
All of us
We're
are.
supposed to work together as a group.
All right. Are we gonna rehash old shit?
No.
Okay,
Al, just,
let's move on, please, because
are
you,
you gonna
you're
excuse
not-
yourself or are you gonna stay at the meeting?
I'm
Which is
gonna
it be?
stay, but
All right,
this is
then I
just,
ask you to be quiet and wait your
you
turn.
need to be respectful of me, and that is not happening.
You're
not
exactly
happening.
right, because I have none in this situation, the way you are coming
Well,
off.
I've been very clear, very, very clear about where I stand on this and that there will be no compromise on it. I've done the disclaimers. I'm done talking about it. Next time, I just won't let you know when I go out and do something. And so I guess you'll just have to be surprised when the outcome comes. Moving on. Thanks a lot. Go.
Kelly is staying in the meeting. She's not excusing herself. Tim, did you want to say anything else?
I'm just thinking of that.
Exactly. It's got your head spinning, don't it?
Well, next time,
Like
don't bring up
all
something you
last
know is
year.
gonna
It's all
really
last
piss me
year
off.
going
That
over
would
again.
probably work better.
Kelly, I support you doing what you're doing. But I can't support your attitude in the
Well,
way you're
I'm sorry,
doing it.
it's been earned.
No.
You know it has. You've been in these boardrooms.
You have to,
And
you
I'm
have to come to a board to get permission to speak in the board's name. I don't give a sugar what company that's for.
Didn't we have this talk about things that board members do on their own? And that
On your own, that's the key word.
I did it on my own. I set
Okay.
that up on my
Then
own.
you may not
Do
include this.
you,
Yeah.
fine, I guess I don't have to wear my stupid name tag, fine.
Fine.
Thank you,
may
by the
do
way, Megan,
anything
it
you
is
want
nice to have.
On Callie's name. That's,
Well,
it's that, that's
Callie
that
gets
simple.
billed as on the board of directors of the Conservation District.
Say it again.
Callie gets billed as being on the board of the Conservation District because that's my title. And we're back again doing this same,
That's your
Frickin'
title
thing.
when you're doing conservation work. For the Conservation District.
When you put this on, they think
Or the
you're up there
board.
talking for us.
So
do
if
you
you
want
want to
a
do that,
say
we
in
need
what
to
I
review
do, or
that.
do you
No,
just
I-
want to alienate me?
No, we want to include you, but you have to be included.
Okay, now, I mean, I don't know why. Everybody's out doing their own thing in their own way.
No,
Everyone
I
should be
disagree with
out
that.
doing their own thing. However, we are supposed to collectively work together as well. And I think there is a balance that we can find between addressing whatever, clearly there are some concerns that aren't really being voiced that I would love to know what they are. If you guys want to share. Because to me, like I said many times, all of us should be doing more speaking. All of us should be doing more events in the community. I think that's a really important part of our mission. I think putting the boundaries in place of involving staff, of having them review materials, of putting a disclaimer, are all really healthy, good boundaries.
But when you deal with an assembled body of elected officials,
Mhm.
they don't all speak. There's a speaker of the house.
We've had this
Yes,
conversation
but there's
about
a
electeds
difference
going out and doing
between
what.
speaking on behalf of, which is why the disclaimer is in place, and doing our due diligence as board members to spread awareness, build financial support, build community support. I think all of us could be doing more of that. But
I don't think any of
that's
us were
where-
commissioned by the board to do that.
I mean, that's my understanding of the role of a board member in every organization, not just in this one.
But there's people here that can speak.
And
For
if they
each
are
one of
able
their
to,
programs.
and we are able to pay them, I'm
We pay them no
absolutely a
matter
fan
what.
of that. I am very aware of the fact that it's not really fair to ask them to work every night after work, after they've been working, to go talk to groups. And I think having boundaries that protect everyone within the board and make all of us feel comfortable is a really important thing, which we've already listed what some of those are. So I'd love to hear, Matt, from any of the three of you, where you feel like those boundaries are insufficient to allow us to both meet the goals of the conservation district, as well as protect all of us and have us send a unified message, which is important for marketing as well.
Correct. But how do we know if it's unified if it never comes through the circle of this body?
You don't trust the
So
staff?
how would you
Don't you
say,
trust the staff?
because I'm
The
hearing,
staff is
I'm
different.
hearing mixed messages, because I'm hearing on the one hand saying the staff are the ones qualified to make the call about the content of conversation. But
Because then
then
they're held
also
accountable for that.
simultaneously hearing that the staff are not able to make the call. So what would be an ideal scenario? Should slides be submitted to the board? Like what would be a tool or something that we could put in place that would help everyone to be able to feel like they're being included, on the same page, support one another, build each other up in our joint efforts collectively? What would be something that, I mean, obviously we don't want to have board meetings devoted to each of us giving a presentation for approval. I think we can all agree that's not good. So what would be another alternative that would make you guys feel comfortable about the content of what's being said, et cetera?
To my understanding, what goes through Megan is approved and is unified throughout all the conservation districts.
Can you explain what you mean by that? What goes through Megan? You mean if
If she's,
presentation is submitted, or?
yeah, if she sends someone out for, I don't know if she even does it now. If she sends someone out for a presentation,
Okay.
that the data and the substance of that presentation
Mhm.
is unified throughout all the conservation districts
Mhm.
or through here.
So, and she has been copied in on all of the content of Kelly's presentation, for example.
Okay, and has that been approved?
It's
By
my
whom?
understanding.
It started wars in the
yes.
past.
I don't know, Kelly, that's what I'm
Okay,
asking.
you're the ones that are
Well, that-
bringing it up
that's
again,
what I'm-
and,
I
and
didn't bring it
so,
up. You're the one that got
okay.
hot head right there. But I think we shouldn't talk about this because it's just gonna get worse.
correct. So let's move on, because the
I
presentation
think
was
that
good.
this is a
Brought up
really
next week.
important, if we want to add it to the agenda next meeting, I think that's a great idea, but I would like to say, I don't think we should just leave it because it's clearly not resolved.
Well,
And even for
but this is
myself, I
being
think it's
doing
important
run
that I
as a weapon
understand.
against me to prevent me from doing the things that I like to do and that I want to do for this district before I leave. And so, you know, you don't do that to Tim or to Doug or question anything that they do on our behalf. Never have. Okay, I have almost 20 years of experience in communications, and I almost have a master's degree in public administration. I'm not stupid, and I can give a presentation on groundwater. All the information comes from the county. Everything came from the county index report or whatever that was studied. It all comes from that and from the materials they provide.
So when you do a presentation, and I'm not trying to be jerk. So all your
Okay.
information comes from the county. Why don't you say this is for the county instead of the conservation district? And put out there there's resources at the conservation district.
I do.
Because
I
you're
talk
standing up
all
there
about who we
like
are
our
and our
spo-
programs,
I'm-
and then I go into
I'm
like
just
the
saying, it's
groundwater.
like You're our spokesman. You don't pick that.
The voters did. Yeah, they did. They voted for me because
To
that's
be a board member.
to be a board member and to do what I feel is best on the board. And board members do that. And the fact that we're having this conversation still about what board members are supposed to do is just, I can't believe we're doing it. And we're getting ready to approve a strategic plan. Now, if you want to see my presentation, I will email it to the board. If you have any corrections, please submit them to me. I will gladly correct it. I don't go out and say stupid things. I'm very careful because I understand that reflects on all of us. And I think that's the end of the conversation. So let's move on. I will email all of you the presentation I've put together that I've used multiple times, and that's it. Okay.
I think it would be good for us to have clarity going forward, so everyone feels empowered to take action.
I agree with you with that. I don't know my role. I don't know what you guys want. It's very hard because everybody has an opinion. And it would be really helpful for me and for all of us if I knew how to react. So I know it's a really sensitive subject. I know nobody wants to talk about it. But I don't want anyone to have hurt feelings or to do things that are, everyone is not in the same. So absolutely, I don't, it doesn't matter to me how we do it or what we want to go forward with. But it would be helpful for me to know.
Well, and I do think unity as a board is really important. Yes, we all bring our own individual skill sets, goals, et cetera, to the table, but if we cannot work collectively together, we're not going to be effective at making the best we could possibly have for the
All right.
district.
We've went down a rabbit hole, you know,
So
I'll
I
give you
make
10,
a,
15, I'll give you 10, 15 minutes on it, and it's
okay,
all
I make a
wasting time out
motion
of our
that
lives,
we
so.
add this to the agenda for next meeting to discuss best practices for how to more effectively empower our board to fulfill their strategic mission of outreach.
Okay. We're on board updates, right?
We're on board updates.
Well, I made a motion, so I think.
Well, and it wasn't supported and it didn't get no, so I guess you're right, we're on board updates. Tim, what do you got?
I just want to follow up on my article last month. Did anybody get a chance to read it?
The article was where?
I'm sorry.
Drawing a blank, sorry.
About farmland preservation.
Oh, I did not see that in our, and
I
that
think
doesn't
Megan
mean it's
handed
not
it.
in there.
I think
was-
Megan handed it out at the end of the meeting.
Is that the one that was from the, went to the Farm Bureau?
Yep,
Okay, I looked at that today, actually. I didn't realize that you had written that.
I didn't write it. I
Okay,
just passed it on. I
Yes.
read it, it caught my attention. I was asking if you would read it and come back to the board with some ideas how to further that idea. That being said, there's a new threat in farm country. I want to make you people aware. I'm not against green energy, but there's solar companies coming to farmers, paying them big money to lease their land because that's the cheapest way to get a lot of acres in a quick amount of time to put up solar panels. I'm not against solar panels, but I don't think we should be putting solar panels on our farmland that provide the food for me and you and our neighbors.
Especially when there's
So-
far better solutions.
So can we, as a district, draft a resolution that we forward to our elected officials to tackle this issue?
So, when I ran for Chester Township, they were talking about, there was a big debacle in Casnovia over the wind energy. So then they were talking about solar, right? And, you know, Chester has a very specific thing where, you know, you're not allowed to convert prime ag land to residential or anything like that. And maybe that's the message we need to send out is either not converting private ag land or putting, there's certain conservation practices that they have that go in conjunction with solar. Like graze, and I'm not the expert on that,
Yeah,
right? Like
grazing
grazing
underneath,
underneath.
Yeah. That limits you, Callie, you're down to sheep and goats.
I realize it's not perfect. But anyway, there's gotta be a series or a thing to look up on conservation practices that can go in conjunction with solar that we can advocate for,
Why
like, so
can't we
if
take the
someone.
solar panel and put them on the roof in the industrial park where they belong, where they need the energy and where there's tons of wasted space?
That's what I was just gonna.
Well, we don't have an
'Cause that's-
industrial park in
So
Chester
Grand Rapids
Township.
is
Eating up all the farmland. So, yeah, I think that would be a perfect spot.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of places.
So can we
in
put this
Ottawa
on an
County.
agenda and talk about it in more detail?
Let's do that.
I would be
You
in
gotta make
support
a
of that.
motion.
I move that we put this on the agenda and bring it to a vote
A
or
second.
discussion.
Conservation practices related to solar, is that what we're talking about, or?
Making a resolution.
We're talking about what we're gonna have, what the motion that says we're gonna talk about it at a
Later
date in the
date.
future, so. all
I'm
those in
just
fa-
trying to
All those
kind
in
of-
favor,
By what that is, I guess, are we talking about solar energy or?
I guess we'll
Solar on
cover that in the
farmland.
future when we talk about this topic. Kelly.
Okay, thanks, Matt, moving on.
Thank you. Oh, all those in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Opposed? We'll talk about it in the future.
That's all I have.
Doug?
Good.
I did follow up from my board report last month, and the Citizens Climate Lobby sent an introductory email between them and Megan to have a staff member or someone speak to them about conservation issues as it relates to that. So that's all that's all I have, is I followed through on that.
Okay. And I'm assuming this board updates was kind of my 2-minute thing that we had. If we can put that at the end of the meeting next time, I think it would be
Yeah,
more productive.
I can do that.
I guess my 2-minute, and this week will be a great, if we have a problem with one another, it's to be done in the 2 minutes, that 2 to 5 minutes, 20 minutes that we spend here. And if there is an issue with one person or the other, contact that person directly. And, you know, bring it up here. That's why I put the 2-minute thing in when I got back on as chairman. We can talk about it here at the board if it's worth talking about. It can be brought up here. So as far as dirty laundry or problems with one another or issues with one another, you know, unless it's very personal, I guess then bring it up here at the board meeting. That would be my only. So we don't, you know, everybody can face it head on. Strategic plan final review with Pam Evans. Or on that note, look what you get to follow.
Well, I'm back. And since we had our planning session a few months ago, you remember we had things on flip chart sheets all over the place and lots of notes. I put together a draft plan, and then a small team did a video conference meeting and worked on that. So thank you to the group who participated in that. And we did another draft based on that. And then I worked with Megan to fill in some of the details to that. And so you've seen a couple of versions of the plan sent through, yellow markings on it, not meant to be ominous, just to guide you about what changed from one document to the next. So it'll be a little easier for you to keep track of things. And most recently, you received the most recent version in your board packet. So I'm hoping you had a chance to review this. I'm going to just do the high level commentary and give you a chance to do any final edits and ask any questions. And if we could do a vote for approval tonight, that'd be great. And we can do a vote for approval with the changes that you suggest tonight, and I can make those edits outside of our meeting tonight. So with that, I've got my, I feel like I've got my Vanna White here is going to put things up on the screen for me, right? And, you know, do my, at the very beginning of the document, there's an introduction, and the introduction does tell you about the needs assessment that you did, the survey, all the work that you did, and made a couple of assumptions. And so I just want to make sure that we're clear about the assumptions in this plan. One is that you're not eliminating any programs. So this plan assumes that the work, if you haven't mentioned a program in the plan, that doesn't mean it's gone away. It means maybe it's just going to continue as it is. So we've only really are talking about higher level changes, new programs, and not things you already have in place. And we also, I wrote this introduction with a view to an outside audience that's not here with us right now. And so I did want to make sure that we really reflected all the hard work you've done over the last few years, what progress has been made here, and all the successes that you've had. So the introduction is really intended to reflect those things. When you first hired me, you asked for this plan to be something achievable with balanced goals that are beneficial to the public as well as to the conservation district. Hopefully they're one and the same, right? Continue with the project program services that are already underway. Have a clear vision that you all share. So here's the vision for the future. Here's where we're all headed together. So you have a clear format for that. And it's something that you can all speak to with one voice that you all support. And then as your team changes, a plan that stays set. So I think one of the, I don't know if it was one of the county commissioners who's your liaison or someone who was here, said something about the plan, you know, as you have new members voted in, new board members voted in, it sort of eliminates, you know, that could eliminate the plan. It shouldn't eliminate the plan. The plan should stay set. And no matter who comes and joins you in your work, whether they're volunteers or board members or whatever that
Got
is.
a question with that, Pam. I don't want to get too off in the weeds here, but let's say there's a whole new group of board members on here and they want to completely alter course. How set in stone is that?
Well, you could, you know, this isn't like, this isn't a document that you can't change. I mean, you can always call for a new strategic plan. So we've written a 5-year plan, but in 2 years, if you say, you know what, it's time for lots of reasons, it's time for us to do a new plan. Or in 5 years, if you don't feel like you're done yet, and this plan is still solid, it's not like a subscription that's run out. So you can just keep it. So it's really up to the choice of the board, whether you decide you want to update the plan at some point. Sometimes things change, you know, there's a environmental disaster there, hopefully not. There's, you know, something really changes with the economy, something happens, and you really have, something happens with funding. You know, something happens and you feel like, okay, we just have to redo the plan. And so there'd be a lot of reasons that that would happen. This is at your direction as a board. And so we've written a 5-year plan, but whenever you're ready, you can update it. You can do a little update or you can do a major rewrite. Okay?
Yep, thank you.
Okay. So remember that impact model we talked about? So the impact we talked about really describes your big vision, big dream, 20 years from now, 30, or maybe your North Star that you never quite achieve, but you're all trying to head toward that. And so for you, your North Star here in Ottawa County, and we've written this in the present tense intentionally, is that the county is thriving, that people understand and appreciate your natural resources, that there's a real love for the natural resources here. Landowners are educated and empowered to take the lead in protecting the land and water around them. And that the conservation district is viewed as an integral part to all that. That you're not doing it all alone. There's lots of other partners, lots of other players, but that you're seen as significant to the success. And your fingerprints are evident around. There's spaces that show your touch. There's programs, there's visibility and volunteers and folks. There's really an awareness and a visibility throughout the county. And that you've really had, you've really moved that needle in public awareness about the role that each person plays in really watershed and habitat restoration, invasive species management, and agricultural best practices. And oh yes, the hemlocks are saved. So that's a big dream. It's not something you can achieve probably in 5 years, but it's certainly a North Star to strive for and to point at. How does that reflect the discussion we had? I think it was in April.
I love it. I think it's great. I'd love to see the hemlock saved.
I mean, well, the idea is to inspire people and to inspire them and have them come work with you. Join us. Can't do this alone. Can't have that impact alone. Join us. So then the next slide is, okay, so we got to move forward toward that, gaining that impact. So our vision to do that is to make sure that the conservation district is an essential ingredient for the healthy environment and quality of life in Ottawa County, and that the community is looking to us for information and guidance, follows our lead, and considers us a wise investment, and see the results here and there of things that you have done that makes the folks feel like, well, that's a good place to put our money. It's a good place to invest our time. So you're seeing results, they're evident, but you have to continue to learn, grow, and develop in order to meet your conservation goals. So you're not there yet, but you're making movement toward that. Still sound good? And so the mission is really the mission we've always had. We made a couple of little edits. We added in Michigan Ottawa County Conservation District because if there's confusion, there's other Ottawa counties.
There's one in Ohio.
Yeah, and so we put that in, and then we took out Michigan, I think that was later, or Ottawa County that was written later in your previous mission statement. So just a couple of little edits. It's essentially the same mission statement. And it really defines your purpose as an organization. So we have 3 areas of focus. And for the folks that were on the video conference in April, at the time, I think we only had 2. And I think we added a 3rd one. Doug had made some comments. I think other people made some comments. And so you'll see, I tried to reflect that in the 3rd area of focus. So first and foremost, you want to ensure the long-term sustainability of this organization. You've made a lot of progress. You have built a strong team. You want to retain the team. You want to develop the team. You want to be financially strong. You want to make sure that the delivery of your programs and services continues. and that you have procedures, practices, and infrastructure in place to do that. Not real sexy, but critical. And if you remember, sure it is for some people like me, and maybe Rivka, it's sexy, but not to other people. And you remember the conversation we had about not wanting to lose ground when there's turnover on the board or turnover with staff, being able to have the organizational intelligence and the work that you've done retained and not lost. And so that really is reflected in this first area of focus. The second we talked about is really focusing on one area of, excuse me, Tim.
I want to look at focus area number 2.
Yeah.
We expand surface impact to residential, business, and I think there should be an agriculture with that.
Okay,
Well, I think the idea behind that was that we already are doing significant work in agriculture.
Yeah, but how do we know that by reading that?
Because we had prefaced that the plan is not going to change any of the programs that already are in place. These are all about the new programs that we'd like to like grow. So
Yep.
that's just the pre-assumption.
This is
Am I
more of
right?
like expanding rather than.
But I mean, I
What's
don't have a problem with, we could say expand from primarily agriculture.
There's more things in agriculture I think we can do, but whatever.
and do you think, if you think
What
if
other
this would
areas
speak,
are not included in agricultural, residential, and business?
Say it again.
And this is not like a criticism, this is just a genuine question. What are we missing by not including, if we just say agricultural, residential, and business?
Oh, I'm
what's
good
not
with that.
included?
I'm good with that.
Okay,
There's no
okay.
agriculture in there, so.
Well, that's what I was saying. Maybe we could just expand from primarily agriculture. Just add the words primarily agriculture between expanded service would clarify to your point. But then keep the focus on the residential and business.
Okay.
can I do that? Is everybody okay with that?
Because I think that's a good clarifying. thing.
Well, and I think that probably speaks to an audience, an important audience that maybe
That's important.
might be looking at this plan, the agricultural, the farmers, agricultural industry. So I think that.
Well,
That's
Meg, just to throw that out there, Megan, you and I just had a brief conversation about what are the tips we can give to farmers to conserve water because we focused on the residential side. So I think always expanding the agricultural side and finding new ways is worth noting.
Should I just change this to through residential, comma, agricultural and business?
Sounds good. Thank you. What do you feel like needs, what you're looking for better? Tim? Better?
That can be a different.
Would that be
Yeah, I'm okay
good
with that.
with you? Okay. Okay, everybody's okay with that. And then, Doug, I've actually made a note that you said this, but I think other people agreed that how will we respond to things that we don't even know we might need our response? And so we put in just to be routinely monitoring anything that's emerging in terms of resource management needs, and just, being able to have a conversation about if there's something you need to respond to that's not in this plan, and that doesn't mean you have to do everything that comes up, but at least have,
Talk about it.
yeah, and have enough presence, that, enough knowledge of what's going on that you can respond. Like solar energy, there's the good side of that and there's the potential bad side of that, and so that's one of those things that, you want to be monitoring and talking about and isn't necessarily reflected in this plan.
Just some ability to work on the
Yeah, there's no way, I wish I was such a brilliant planner that I could tell you right now everything that's gonna happen over the next 5 years. But
You wouldn't need.
really
Save you a lot
within,
of money, I think.
I
to
don't know,
know,
I could be like, I could be doing TED Talks and
I'm open.
writing books and really out there, couldn't I? So these 3 areas would stay pretty concrete. And underneath those in your plan, and I did not make a slide for this, you have a grid, that has very specific strategies, goals, timeline, and measures. And the areas in this grid may change over the next, they will change. You'll try some things, you'll decide that that Pam Evans was really lame, we're taking that out, that didn't work, you can blame me for anything. Yeah, because I'll be gone, right? But we've given some responsibilities to two key committees, the finance committee and the HR committee in here. And then the staff has the lead, and there's places where the board chair is listed, Matt. So we have some assignments here. And the idea is that you would track this and update and change, set annual goals, give the committees instructions, and work off of this. And this would be kind of a changing grid. You know, it won't stay the same because you'll learn some things, new opportunities will come up. And so in the area of infrastructure, we have investing in the staff and making sure you have a high-performing team, strengthening board practices, making sure that you're expanding community engagement through outreach and education. We talked about hiring somebody in this area. So hiring a professional to lead this area is in your plan, and increasing your visibility through marketing and public relations initiatives. So that, and strengthening your funding. There's a lot of things in here that are in the detailed plan that will be the work that you'll be doing over the next 5 years. Do we need to put the plan up, or are you comfortable with the detail that's in here? Because I don't have a slide for all the detail that's in
I
here.
mean, I think as long as it's one that you've
Okay.
sent out, or
Okay.
reviewed it pretty clearly.
The area, focus area 2, I did take the groundwater program plan that Megan and her team developed, and I kind of cross-checked the strategy so that the area related to groundwater should be consistent with the program plan we've got. And I know you've gotten funding for that, and so I tried to be, and Megan has looked this all over really carefully with me before we send it out to you. So
And the second, I think we mentioned that second internal group we met with, it was just a few staff members that just really reviewed this kind of details of this to see if we felt like it was even feasible. So that was something we did open up so that everyone was, several people were able to kind of give some input, some feedback. So
good. So you did that with your team.
yes.
Okay, that, I was hoping that you did that with your
So
team. That's
prior
great.
to
Yeah.
making any of those suggestions we made to you, it was.
We want it to be doable.
Yes.
Focus area 3, which talks about monitoring, really has in there as a strategy that you would repeat your needs assessment in year 4 of this plan, so that you'd be ready to do another strategic plan in year 5. But you can repeat that needs assessment whenever you need to. So it's not, I put the,
Except that it is an M3 requirement.
That's what I was
okay.
gonna say. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we do that anyway, right?
Yeah, well, I tried to put the big work
Yeah.
in here, so it made sense to me, Rivka, so.
It
yeah.
would be smart if we wanted to make that plan every 5 years.
I do recommend reviewing where we are on this track with the strategic plan every year.
So
Okay,
I have to
well,
put
the
together.
needs assessment, right? Yeah.
No, it was a strategic plan, so I put together an annual plan of work every year. And
Okay.
in the past, our plan has not been to this level. So really all I ever did was work off this plan of work. But now what we'll do is when I put together that plan of work, it will reflect where we are in that plan. So, and that will include all programs with everything.
And I think it'll be really
you'll see that
helpful
next
for, incoming people, whether that be staff, board members, et cetera, to be able to better understand what we're doing. And also it's a really useful tool for talking to legislators and that kind of thing as well to help them understand the big picture. So
And I try to include like a percentage of our budget that goes into each program area type of understanding, so it gives you a nice feel. It's not perfect like this one is, and it still has its needs adjustments, but
In the perfect world, as a planner, you would set annual goals from this plan. The board would have its goals, the staff would have its goals, and then Megan would do her performance appraisals based on those goals for the year. You would do Megan's performance appraisal based on her goal, and you would do a self-appraisal of how well you're doing against your goals. So everybody would be kind of evaluating each year and thinking about, and not to be punitive, just to say, we could do better here, we did great here, we could do better here. And so really set some goals, whether it's at the beginning of your fiscal year or the calendar year, however that works, that would be the perfect scenario. And for how to roll this out. So for a successful plan execution, I think I said this the first day I was here. For this really to be a successful plan, it's not the document that I'm leaving you with, but it's how well you execute it. So you really do need to have a constructive partnership between the board and the staff. And honestly, having some conflict doesn't make me that uncomfortable. I think there are some things that you need to work on. And probably you do need to have a study session of some kind about how you do outreach. I'm sitting right next to you, Kelly, so you can like smack me if you wanted to for stepping into it. But I do think that you probably need to have a study session with and set some written guidelines that you all can agree on in terms of how you're going to handle outreach, so that Megan knows what is, she's not put in a position where she's not sure about what her role is, and that you all know. And it should be a board vote. So you don't necessarily get to just disagree if the board votes something. You have to support the vote. That's part of your job as a board member. There's a vote and you support the vote. And so that's important, that you have a good enough study session where everyone gets to really dig in and talk about a set of guidelines that you can agree on, and then you vote. And I can send you some examples of some guidelines. You're not the only organization that has an elected board that faces this kind of thing. There's all kinds of boards out there that have to somehow represent the voter as well as the organization, and you have to somehow find the balance of that. So I would recommend that you do that. So you do have a healthy, constructive partnership between board members and between the board and the staff. The board should keep an eye on the long-term view, that North Star. This is where we want to get. And the staff is busy trying to, Megan and her team are busy trying to run the organization, and it's tough to always get your head up out of the weeds and remember that, oh yeah, there is a big North Star, and that's the board's job. The annual work plan we talked about, I would suggest, you had mentioned, Matt, earlier, changing the format of the agenda. I would change the format of the agenda to reflect your plan, so that's really easy to be reviewing the plan without even reviewing the plan. It's just it's just built right into the agenda, and you're not even thinking about it. It's just part of the work that you're doing. And before you know it, you are partway through. The committees are really important. You've got two. You have an HR committee and a finance committee. It's important that you have somebody on those committees that's an expert in those areas. So if you have an HR, if you need to recruit somebody who's a non-board member who knows HR, you should do that. And same with finance. I don't know what your expertise is in finance, but having some real expertise will be helpful to you. So those are really high functioning committees. You can go, Sarah, to the next slide if you want. And just, again, to remember your role, making sure that you're, the biggest things I could really push on here is to make sure that this organization has the resources it needs. There's a lot of work in this plan. And so making sure that the staff has the opportunity for training, that you have, that you're fighting for the budget, that you're really resourcing the group appropriately. It is important that you speak with one voice as a board. And so however you do that, it's really important that you leave the room and you speak as one voice, and that you come prepared for meetings, that you're reviewing agendas, you're reviewing materials, that you're responding to email, that you're following up on your assignments. That all that is like little stuff, but that's what will make this plan successful if you're doing the work that you need to do.
The Diablo's in the detail.
It is. And, coming in, like having really looked things over and prepared to have a good discussion about things. And it's just really important for both the committees and for the board meetings. I put a couple slides here, and I will ask Megan to send all these slides out to you. But I did put a couple slides in here about the role of the committees. And so the committee chair has a pretty big job. And so making sure that the committee chair is assigning work to committee members so that the staff doesn't leave with all the assignments, but that there's some other assignments. So for example, I'm on the personnel committee for the county library board in Manistee, and I leave with assignments. I have things I have to do for the personnel committee. I have to take the minutes, but I also have some other things I have to research and do on behalf of the committee. And that's how it should be with your committees. You just don't have enough staff for the staff to be the ones that leave the finance and the HR committee with all the assignments. So making sure that people have assignments, that you've got the right committee members, that you've got goals for the committees, and that someone, and that people are following up and hold each other accountable. If people are not doing what they promised, then hold each other accountable for that. And committee members, I also have a slide here that might be helpful to come to meetings. Seems like obvious, doesn't it? But it's easy to not come or not, I'm like I said, I'm on committees, and I'm kind of amazed at how many times people the chair of the committee doesn't show up for a meeting. So, making sure that people show up. Any questions, anything else about this plan that you want to talk about? You feel like we got what you need?
So say you had this one slide that I think we
Did I
missed,
miss one? Oh,
just in case you wanted to go over it,
oh, right there, my balloon.
or that one. I didn't know if
Oh,
that was something.
that's the organizational structure. You can see what we've added a position there for community outreach. And thanks, Sarah, you're good. You're a good partner here. And then the two committees at the bottom there, the finance and the HR committee. And the finance committee has the fund development responsibilities embedded into it. So I did send a draft committee description to Megan that she can share with you.
I think I included that.
Did you send that out to everybody? Yeah, so there's a committee description for finance, and there should be one for HR as well.
The only thing that I've been thinking about and wondering about in relation to the committees, and we may need to have this as a separate conversation, is I know we've touched on the idea of having a marketing committee. We kind of unofficially have a marketing committee that is what did the annual event. I do think, especially as we work on developing an internal role for a staff member to be in that place, that would be an important piece to have that as an official an official committee and an official piece of the puzzle.
So this is the tricky thing there that you just have to be careful about. If you have a marketing committee and you have a marketing staff, a person
Mhm.
responsible, that staff person should be the lead,
Absolutely.
you know, so the marketing
Yep.
committee is supporting but not directing the
Mhm.
staff person.
Mhm.
And so, and here's where you could use a marketing committee to develop your standard materials, could certify people to go out and do presentations. You know, the tricky part about presentations is the questions and answer part. Because we can arm all the board members with, you know, slides, but then someone asks a question
Mhm.
and maybe it's a little political, or maybe it's a little
I see what you're
controversial, you
saying.
know, and that's where you can't, you know, totally contain what's happening out in the public. And so sometimes having a staff person there that you can defer to is helpful. And I know this from being, I think Matt might have brought up an example. I can bring up an example from being on the hospital board of being out, and, you know, you can go and talk about something really specific, you know, about the hospital, the new emergency room. And then somebody in the audience wants to know why the hospital discontinued this program, or why they're not doing this, or why they're not doing that. And then you're all of a sudden,
On a road,
you're
yeah,
in
spiraling
a
out of
tricky
control.
position, you're in a
Gotcha.
tricky position. And so
Mhm.
it's either, you know, I can't really answer that, but I'm glad to have somebody follow up with you. Or you have somebody from the hospital there that's authority enough that they can respond to it. So that's the tricky thing with arming people to go out. You can be very, very educated and knowledgeable, but then something kind of tricky comes up in the Q&A time, or somebody comes with, they're angry about something that somebody did from the conservation district. And then.
Well, and
that-
presentations obviously can
Yeah.
fall under that, but I wasn't
Yeah.
even thinking about that when
Yeah,
I
yeah,
said it. I'm just thinking more broadly. Right now, there's a lot of various disparate pieces and events and programs, and, you know, that it would be, I think, beneficial from everything I've heard so far, not necessarily in this meeting, but just in general, to have kind of that space to make sure we're not reinventing the wheel and that we're allocating resources most effectively. And I think there's been some question of whether it's going to be a marketing person per se versus educational outreach. So there may be some overlap, but that would just be my only thing, is that we might want to consider or bring that back
for a
around, because I know
conversation.
we've
Yeah.
discussed it.
I mean, really, you want everyone to be an ambassador for the
Mhm.
conservation district, of all the board, all the staff, everybody, you know, so it's just how you do that, and what's the best way to do that.
I was just gonna throw out there, we had talked about ward training, and, you know, our strategic plan kind of was a piece to that, but let's just keep filing that one away for the future.
What did you want to add? When you were talking about marketing committee, one of the thoughts that popped in my head until we're prepared to do something on that level was as we have events come out, to have ad hoc committees for each event. You know, so we talked about annual meeting, we talked about who's available, let's talk about how, and then legislative day, for example, we might talk about like, and until we're ready to take on a full on committee for that one, because I just don't know the capacity, maybe when we have a person, you know, kind of, that's where my head has gone. And I don't know if that makes sense. But it's the way I
Makes a lot of
function.
I just want to make sure that, like, we're looking at marketing. I'm a public relations person, that's slightly different than marketing, but taking the broad stance and not just looking at the individual things that are coming our way, and making sure that we're, you know, you and I talked about a media kit for the groundwater thing. Doing that on a broader organizational scale rather than just focusing on individual items. So
And I think that all those ideas are really good, but they're gonna take a different focus from that's where that's where I get stuck and we want to have it. We all have a piece of outreach and marketing and all that in our jobs, but only a little piece of they're responsible for that little piece. And that's why it's so ad hoc. We can fulfill this. It might not, that might change.
So I have one edit for your plan, adding in the agriculture to focus area 2. Is there anything else you want changed, any other comments or?
Did we put in there, we had talked about like scanning where our programs are gonna go next, you know, when things fall off, like if we lose a grant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it said we're gonna just keep our eye on the future and be able to move sideways instead of, so yeah, it's in there.
I think it falls in
That's-
their focus area three, yeah.
Okay,
Well, I think in the essence of time, you've got one edit to make.
Yep.
And basically, we've all seen it, correct? Are we good to go? I mean, which
Do you want to vote approval of your plan tonight?
I would like to.
I will make a motion to approve Pam Evans' strategic plan.
Support.
2022.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
I would like to reread it, but I'm on one of those.
Okay.
I glanced through it, but I'll be honest, I did not spend a lot. Yeah, part of it.
So I second Tim. Well,
I think you were there the whole time.
any other
No, I wasn't there
discussion?
at the second meeting. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff.
Just to clarify, Doug, what you said, it's not Pam's plan.
Well.
The plan,
I kind of liked that.
the plan by.
Pam Evans wrote.
Prepared by.
All right, well, all those in favor of approving it with the one addition, say aye.
Yeah.
Those opposed? It is approved. Thank you very much, Pam.
Thank you all very much.
Thank
And
you.
Megan,
Drive
I'm gonna follow up with you because we're gonna do a one-page diagram of this plan, so you have something for
safe. Everyone.
your
Thank you.
outreach activities.
Have a safe trip
Thank
home.
you. Yeah, thank
Do you have
you.
everything?
Thanks, everybody.
You have everything you need? Yeah, I do.
Cultivating resilience.
Yeah, so our Cultivating Resilience Day is just around the corner. I'm actually gonna let Sarah talk for a second.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the day and the agenda and
Well,
respondents and?
yeah, I mean,
and what
last
drew you
time,
into this,
that's
so.
okay. Last time I checked, we had about, I think about around 121 people registered in total. It's also including partners and everything that are running it, but so we're pretty happy with that. It seems like every day we have more and more people registering. That registration is open till Friday. Is we're gonna try to close it off because that's kind of the last day we can give the Wolfies lunch orders. So we'll be ordering a little bit extra. So if we get folks that come show up kind of day of, we can still take them. They just won't have like their lunch guaranteed. But yeah, I think the agenda is still the same. Last time I shared with you, we're pretty excited about it. We've got some
Cool,
door prizes.
Yeah,
I saw that. Yeah.
How can I make sure I'm registered and or do you need me to, like,
Every
every time I
time
get
you
an
register,
email, I'm like, I
please
think
register.
I registered, but I don't
It's, I
know.
can check
Right.
on the
Please,
list and
families.
see if your name is on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the registration links on our website, it's under events and.
Oh, I know exactly where it is. I just can't remember if I did it or
Yeah,
not.
I can check the list to see if your name's on there. But yeah, I mean,
I thought
things
those
are,
store prizes were pretty snazzy. I was like.
yeah, for anyone who hasn't
Good
seen them
job.
yet, it's yeah, Lexi got those all set up, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
We have a year-long family membership to John Ball Zoo, and then also a
Oh.
half-day fishing charter trip in 2023 for JJ Sport Fishing. And then there's also from Karen through the meat program, some compost thermometers.
Compost thermometer.
Yeah, I guess they retail to like $150, so they're kind of a big deal, I guess.
Okay.
But
Well,
yeah.
that's good to know because I'm going to start composting this year.
There you go. But yeah,
So anything else you need from us other than continue spreading the word?
things are pretty much good to go at this point. We're just doing some like final last minute get ready things, like stuffing our registration folders, which we have some interns coming tomorrow to do that. And we've ordered swag, we've got t-shirts and everything, so it's pretty exciting.
Is that distributed through Farm Bureau?
Yep. The Farm
Yeah.
Bureau the Michigan Farm Bureau made a postcard for us, and they spread that to all the members in Ottawa and Allegan. And some of them also shared it to their Facebook, and we went to the Ottawa County Farm Bureau picnic. So,
I've been tweeting that ever since our annual meeting. I've pretty much distributed all the flyers that you've given me.
perfect.
So I did my part.
Yeah, I've been to a number of outreach events as well the last few weeks, so that's been good. Anyways, yeah. Should be exciting.
It's probably gonna be hot
Informational.
again.
The last piece of informational, not the last piece, but another piece, Region 7 meeting. Some of you are interested in going. I'm not sure if you saw RSVP or didn't. I think Rivka, you were planning on going, Doug, you were planning on going. It's in Berry County, the Pierce Cedar Creek Institute, 9 a.m. I'm happy to carpool if anybody wants to carpool. So,
What usually comes out of those? Just like best practices or organizational best practices?
So I'm
or-
gonna share the agenda with you. So this is required from conservation districts to do each year. We did it 2 or 3 years ago, was Ottawa's turn. We'll up the agenda though. We follow a very similar agenda every year. So you do updates from MACD, the Michigan Association of Conservation Districts. Jack, do you want to fill in for me? All right, pull this up, because you know it.
Yeah, I haven't seen the agenda myself, but typically MACD gives a highlight, the districts participating give highlights. Very often there's a topic that MACD wants to cover. Like last year would have been lobbying legislators to get, the additional $3 million put back in the budget. Lunch is typically provided and usually some sort of recreational or educational activity occurs as well. After lunch, people can go home or go on the activity, like you guys hosted a PAT.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, so it's worth the time and effort to go.
Let's see. Yes. So the agenda this year, they're going to do a optional field tour to visit an oak savanna restoration, to provide an opportunity to enjoy this site, but also discuss what led to us them partnering on this project with a wildlife habitat grant. They have a shuttle, so it'll take us to the location. The tour has a little walk, less than a mile, but there is some hills to it. So to know that, it's about 30 minutes. So the agenda will include the MACD board will introduce themselves. We then have an opportunity to introduce ourselves, the boards, to other board districts that are in our region. So the Muskegon Conservation District will be there, and Allegan, Region 7, I have to pull them out.
That's on August 26th. Because that's Women's Suffrage Day.
Oh,
Just saying.
yeah, okay.
Remember that.
So, yeah, and so we'll have introductions. We'll talk about the MACD elections that are coming. All of us get an opportunity to speak about what our updates are. MDOT has an opportunity with their updates. CEDAM, which is the Conservation District's employee group, they'll talk about some of the things that they have to offer. It tends to be, oh, I'm sorry, here's a list. Barry, Clinton, Eaton, Ionia, Kent, Montcalm, Muskegon, and Ottawa. And our next time to do this will be in 2027. We all do each year. The last 2 years have been virtual and not awesome because it's just tough to do that kind of stuff virtually. So this is the first time we've been able to meet in person in a few years.
Yep, I am definitely planning on going. I'm totally open to carpooling with whoever. I have a minivan. It doesn't have air conditioning, but
Oh, I'm still in a truck, so
I can also ride in the truck. That's fine too.
sometimes I
My
get to take a
husband
truck.
recharged my air conditioner. It's the greatest thing ever.
Okay.
It's
That's
my
that.
anniversary. My husband won't be too mad at me.
Oh, yeah, you don't
I'm
have to
going to
go.
Traverse City right after mine. Hot to try it if I don't get home.
There you go. So that's it. Unless you guys have any questions, I just wanted to put that back on your radar. Staff Appreciation Day is Thursday, so we are putting together a day to to celebrate our staff as well as say goodbye to Keely Dunham and to our Shrek team as they're finishing up their work this year. So that's kind of fun. We're going to Howard B. Dutton Park. It's in Holland. We're going to carpool over there. We'll have lunch. We'll do some team building activities. We're going to do some pictures, that type of stuff. And then we're going to Outdoor Discovery Center to visit their visitor center and learn about some of their raptors that have been rehabilitated. And they have a kind of a neat little hiking area. So that is our day. So we're going to just kind of do something a little fun, celebrate the staff. I have a bunch of, I've written up some appreciation notes. So it'll be fun. Should be good.
And you're
Anything
going
you
to,
need
the
from
park-
us? Sorry.
you're going to the park when?
We're going to the park at 11 a.m. on Thursday. You're all welcome. And if you come, you might have to do a team building activity. So be fully aware of.
Are you gonna like have us fall backwards
Almost.
into each other's arms?
I got some good ones.
Thursdays and day after tomorrow.
Yeah.
right?
After one. And it hasn't often been attended by board, so don't feel like you have to go. I'm not saying that. I just want to inform you that that's happening. Our lunch was donated to us from Boar's Head. And so we have lots of lunch meats, and the only thing we purchased then were the bread and the chips and the sides that go along with it. So kind of fun. We got some swag. I don't want to ruin it so they can't hear, but typical stuff. Last year we did sweatshirts and lunch boxes. This year it's very similar. So,
Keep it up.
so I wanted to update you there.
Staff definitely deserves it.
Yeah, it's fun. We have fun doing it. Legislative Day and tour. So we have received a while back some information from Dan Moland, who is the executive director for the Michigan Association of Conservation Districts, on just reiterating the importance of advocating to our legislators. And I think it's only become more important to us this year with the turnover that we're seeing in the county commissioners. I think we have a lot of educating to do. I think that we have an opportunity to show others the great work we do. And so Rivka had mentioned it to me, and I talked a little bit about it, as she knows that I don't have a ton of time, but that she would be open to assisting. And then Sarah and I actually had some conversations about this as well, because of the groundwater stuff that's happening. We have some partners that have contributed space for us to do outreach. One of the partners who has contributed space is the
Grand Haven
Township. Thank you. And
That's good.
so we were kind of thinking about maybe there could be some sort of full focus on groundwater. We'll start with that, be kind of the general focus, but an opportunity to also talk about who we are and just being a starting point for us to start to communicate with our legislators locally. I mean, the larger ones are important, don't get me wrong, but we really need to make a real push on these local commissioners and that they see our value. So we're just playing around with some of that. So that I'll let Rivka talk for a second, and then if you guys want to have some conversation about whether this is something we'd like to look at, that's really why I put it here.
Yeah, so I think when I saw the email from the Michigan Association, I think it's a great idea. Like Megan said, I think it's really important with an almost complete turnover of the county commission that they know who we are.
I'm sorry, it was from who? The communication came from who?
From the Michigan Association of Conservation Districts.
His name's Dan Mullion. He is
Okay.
he's executive director there.
he-
It used to be Lori Palin.
Yeah.
So you might remember that name.
So basically, it was like, this is a recommendation we're making to all of our conservation districts. You really should do this. And I was like, yeah, I think we probably should. So that's all the farther, there are a lot of different directions we could go with it, obviously, as far as doing an official presentation, having it just be, we could do it similar where we had boards set up with staff members to explain things and just do a meet and greet. There's a lot of different avenues. I think the most important thing is to start building those relationships with the new commissioners, help them know who we are, what we're doing, why it's important to them, why it's important to their constituents and their districts. just relationship building, but that could look like, and education. So that could look like a lot of different things. None of them, as far as I'm aware, have ever held public office. They probably are not fully aware of the process, even by which funding happens or anything like that. So I think it's important for us to get ahead of that before we even get to that point, right? Hopefully they know who we are, they like us, they understand the good we're doing in the community before we even have a vote relevant to that. Would be kind of a goal.
Okay, so this is something that we put together. It ain't a date that's happening that we.
No,
It's just-
participate- Okay.
Do
all right.
we want to do,
Alright.
is this
Do
something
we
we'd like
want to
to
do it?
pursue?
If we do, when do we want to do it?
I
How
don't
do
even
we
think we
want to
need
do
all
it?
that. Do we want to pursue this? And
I think it's
does the
important.
board, is the board on board with pursuing something? And then we can start thinking about what a plan is.
My opinion is, I mean, we need to meet the commissioners.
Mhm.
Luckily, Roger made it through.
Mhm.
Yep.
He did.
The only one.
But there's some things we do. I mean, we got $100,000 they invest in this.
Mhm.
And we need to keep up with them. I think Matt, being a past commissioner,
Mm-hmm.
should
I,
be a helper to you.
correct.
Agreed, yeah. 100%.
And
Would be
knows
really valuable.
the ropes over there.
Matt, do you know any of the new commissioners at all?
I know of a couple of them, but, you know. that's-
You haven't met them.
No. I guess my only thing would be their head ain't even attached right now. I mean, they need to get in there and spend, I'm gonna say a couple months before they, I mean, the way the elections were ran and why some of these people are in there, you know, and again, you know, there's several new county commissioners who've never held a board job, you know, I'm a little nervous about that as far as a, you know, yeah, I know they had great conflictions and why they wanted to be, you know, this new county commissioner. And I think that they all think that they can go down there and they're gonna change everything in the first 2 or 3 meetings. Which ain't gonna happen. And, you know, so I mean, their head is full of stars right now. So I mean, it's hard to go meet them and to have them remember who we are or to make a decision on with us. I would say give them a couple months.
Wait for an opportunity.
And, you know, maybe do something mid to late winter. I mean, they're not gonna take office until what, January.
I
So-
don't even think they
the-
have influence, because I had a conversation with Joe after the election and, you know, Joe Bush. Our current commissioners are gonna decide the next budget for the next year, so I think we're safe. And
Well,
so
we
in
have a
that
2-year
regard, we have,
contract, So we're
Yeah.
fine. I mean. even if
right, we
we're-
have time, but
Well, yeah, one more left.
we could also take this in small bites. It's gonna be impossible to get all the elected
100%.
officials we wanna see in it at one
Mhm.
time.
I think we're getting
Well,
in
and
weeds too,
that's-
like, we don't need to decide how and when. Just do
Right.
we want to maybe put together a planning committee for this so that we can then fight?
They're
it
gonna,
off?
they're
I
gonna
do
bring
wanna-
all the new county commissioners together. And I guess what I would say is they do, you know, they start to brief these new ones and the old, you know, the new board. And quite often they bring in, you know, health department people, police department people. And you can talk to them and I'm gonna call it board training. It's really not board training. It's just, you know, get your feet on the ground, you know, here's what's gonna be happening with you. You know, maybe possible we can get in on something like that.
I like
Because
that
they're,
idea.
you know, they're not being bombarded, you know, and trying to walk around the room and meet, you know, and then remember who we are and what we were there for, that type of thing. So I mean, I think we maybe, you know, work a little behind the scenes to get into maybe one of those. I mean, then they'll have
Absolutely.
some 3, 4, 6 of them, you know, the first 6, 8 months of their new life. So,
I do want to add to that though. Our focus obviously is really on the commission because, but the right, how do we say it?
Call it MAC.
MAC.
Okay, thank you. I'm like, the thing.
It's a long name.
Yeah.
That's our
MACD, you know, their focus obviously was not just on commission, it was also on state rep, house rep, senate, all of that. And so, you know, that could be something if we wanted to do something in, you know, they were recommending doing it during the legislative break. I think it may make more sense to do it early on, once we know who all those people are.
But
like
tell you
in
what's happening
January.
right now with conservation districts in the state of Michigan. They're all looking at Ottawa County.
Yeah.
And our
Yeah.
commissioners and our legislators down there are all saying, look.
Mhm.
So Ottawa County don't have to go nowhere because everybody's coming to us at this
Yeah.
point in time. And I mean, I guess if we, because, you know, they fund us, look what they can do with that kind of funding.
Mhm,
So right now, we are the poster child.
mhm.
You know, we can do no wrong, really. I mean, we are the
Or you got a target on your back. One of the-
one or the
Right.
other. But I mean, you know, there's a whole bunch of,
That's my line.
you know, there's a whole bunch of, you know, representatives from
Yeah.
around the state looking at us. Our representatives know what Ottawa County's doing with us. And they're surely, you know, using us as, you know, as the, you know, the show and tell.
And Roger Vick
Prize.
can get through
Do
too.
we,
Yeah.
do we want to just make a motion to form a committee to make a plan for this type of work? Or do we want to, how do you guys want to make a decision on how we want to tackle this piece of our work?
I'm always a fan of relationship building, and I prefer when we have some level of, for lack of a better word, control, where we can set the stage. I do agree with your idea of getting in front of the commission as a orientation, so to speak. I think that's a fantastic idea. But in a broader picture, I think there is value to us inviting our legislators to really talk to them about what we do. I don't think there's necessarily like, this is something that has to happen in the summer, which was what MACD recommended. I don't think that's reasonable for a whole host of reasons, for us specifically. But what do you think about the idea in general of saying, like, let's plan a thing at some point in the next
Or
6
two or
months?
three small things. I mean, I
Yeah.
really think
Yeah,
it's just
that's
gonna
true.
be about what is our, how do we want to be, all of us,
Mhm.
talking about what our focus is and how do, I think that there's ways to reach this group of individuals. I think when we start talking about property values and job creation and funding that comes into the county, there's ways to, I think we need to start to have, I would like to see us have a similar message as we go out into the community. It's really detrimental.
Well, I guess, other than our annual meeting, which we normally get a good response to that,
Mhm.
do, you know,
Do we want more?
do you want more than that?
We had a 75th. We had a lot of people there.
No?
And actually invited the governor, no show, but,
Imagine that.
but anyways, that, I don't know where we're at
Thank you,
now.
Lisa.
Are we 80 some? Maybe throw a bash like that, just a bash?
I'm confused myself.
And
I don't think we have to decide all this. I think we just
Right.
need to decide, do we want to pursue
Doing events
events
to,
that promote legislation and getting our general legislators educated on who we are and coming up with a common message.
I would like to start with local, because the other ones are MAC.
Yeah,
And
there, that,
pay them to do
Mhm.
that.
Mhm, agree.
That's their job.
Well,
And
Luke
they punted it on-
Meerman
Yeah.
shoot
Is
Is
down
what they're doing,
the,
honestly.
Luke Meerman shot down some amendment to the conservation
which
district.
I had a great conversation with him at the legislative breakfast. or
Yeah,
picnic,
yeah.
And he wants to meet with me and talk more
Good.
about the conservation district.
Okay,
and he
perfect.
Feels like he can definitely support us. Is what his-
Okay, back
That's
on.
my next
Right,
one.
but that's part of the legislative outreach piece, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen, it just needs to be part of our agenda, I think.
And how we want to talk about who we are. I think we just need a common message.
So Tim, you haven't said much. What is your general feeling
I'm
about?
okay with all that. I'm just listening. Okay.
Why don't we, I get the vibe that we're gonna put a few things on the agenda like every month or every other month. I mean, going through. Why don't we
Continue to have this conversation.
keep it on there for comments? And we can visit it and move on. If somebody's got a red hot idea that they gotta move on the next 30 to 60 days, you know, then, you know, just have it in the background. You know, loop. So, I mean, not that we have to talk about it every month, but why don't we put it in there as a kind of a
Bulletin
maybe,
point.
yeah,
Why
talk,
don't you and Rivka communicate a little bit?
we
I
can.
would be fine with that.
Then it stays out of the meeting until something pops up good.
Okay, yeah, we can have some more conversations and
Right.
maybe come back with some more concrete ideas whenever it's ready. Sounds good.
Let's do that.
Next piece was fall native plant sale. You guys might have seen some of the advertisements that have gone out. We did change things up this year. We are using different vendors, and we are using 3 vendors rather than just one. One of them came to our rescue last year. Bird's Foot Nursery. They're up north, but we're also working with another vendor that brings plants to some of the other conservation districts here down, or here in West Michigan. And we are doing a day of sale rather than a pre-order sale. So it kind of helps take away some of that crazy planning pieces. We will offer free sales for garden kits and beach grass as they're both really project planned. I think we also have a
I'm sorry, for beach grass and what else?
garden kits. You got a pollinator garden. Where we have a presentation prior to our sale that will be done by Wes Landing, and he is going to be talking a little bit about converting your turf grass into native landscaping, how to do that in a aesthetic way.
When and where?
This, yeah. So it is September 24th, and it will be at Hemlock Crossing again.
Do we
It's a Saturday.
know a time frame?
Yes,
That day, is it like
presentations at
all
9:30,
AM?
and then following
I would say.
AM,
Yep.
yes, sorry. And then following the presentation, we'll open the sale for browsing shop. Now, this will take more staff as this gets, people are nutty. So it'll take more staff, but I do think we'll actually probably bring in more in the end by doing it this way rather than the pre-planning and driving.
Kent Conservation, I'm sorry, to interrupt, they had a great sale. So,
I'm not against these natural gardens or landscapes, whatever you call them. But for some people, it's an excuse to grow weeds. And there's a fine line there, because when weeds and mismanagement comes pests and mosquitoes and all this other stuff. So how do we educate people, or how do we differentiate there a little bit? Give me some ideas.
That's what she said, it's gonna be a landscape. Plants.
Yeah, I
There's a
know,
difference
but
between landscape and letting the lawn grow.
We talked about maintenance, we talked about aesthetics.
And they are having an educational outreach out.
It's kind of what you want to do in the farm.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you, Tim. I think that that's something that I can't, I don't know what elements it's going to use.
I push excessive outreach about how you actually cases that have facts. And so I do home visits for people so that I can help them with plans. We have Wes Landon, who's a landscape architect, who does multiple presentations he's done. We have one that's fully recorded and on our YouTube channel from 2020. And then we have his one from spring as well. So we try to provide as much outreach as possible on how you actually create these spaces. And then we make sure that when we're talking about orders and designs and things like that, that we operate within township ordinances as well.
I'm not picking on Dan
So
Sawyer
wish we
when I
had
say-
Dan, let's do a TikTok channel, but we do not, so.
I am philosophically opposed to us doing a TikTok page.
All right, well, we'll have to have
Anyway.
words about that.
Well,
Okay, would it be helpful at all, because I know you said it's gonna take a lot more staff to run this. Do you need volunteer support in any way?
If you are, if you're able and available to assist us with the sale during the day of sale, so 10:30 to probably 4. It doesn't have to be the whole day, but I would welcome this. It's busy.
Can I borrow your pen just a second?
Yep. Because I can also talk to our senior scouts about if they want to participate, like, how many volunteers would you foresee being helpful? Like 1, 5, 10, 20?
Well, Lexi and I could have some conversation about what we foresee, and I think it has to.
It'll be less than 10 for
nothing earth shattering.
Okay.
Well, the
Alright, we
native
good?
plants I bought are doing fantastic. I like where they are, so, and they look very pretty.
Alright, is that where we're good there?
We're good there. And then I had put the 2 votes on district policy issue, which was something that been brought to me by several board members. So that was in your packet to review, and I think we were focused, well, I guess I'll let the board talk about where their issues are, and I can add into them.
Yeah, I was confused by that for sure. I didn't understand what was really being done there too, so we mentioned it requested.
And the second vote then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
Second
was
vote
meant to be
was,
a discussion.
we voted, it came about, I'm gonna tell you how it came about, Megan's race. Didn't like it, so it came back next meeting, and we're gonna have 2 votes. on Anything to do with Megan, unless this can't be that single, not one person. So then it went to staff.
Okay.
So really, her thing that we voted on is. We can vote on it twice. So the HR committee, and I don't think we need to
So-
have that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like if the board members are prepared, as we should be, having read and reviewed everything ahead of time, we should be able to make one vote. To me, that seems unnecessarily, yeah,
Inefficient.
yes, yes.
I wasn't
I'm
at
not
the
a
meeting
fan.
when that passed. I think a discussion and then a vote, I think was
There was a
probably
whole
where.
list. That was the end thing that passed. That was the one thing that.
To me, if you're being responsible, you've reviewed your vote should mean something the first time you vote it. That's my feeling. on that.
Well, as a board, we can bring it to a vote again and vote it back out, policy, change policy.
Correct.
So I got, that seems like a no-brainer, we'll change the policy. Back to, I mean, I think, whoever heard of a 2-vote system, I thought about it, and, that's about as silly and inconsistent and childish as, I want to change my mind,
Yeah.
So-
type of thing. So I mean, I don't understand the,
I think it was meant to be a discussion and then a vote.
we
I
discuss
think-
and vote on everything, though,
Yeah.
don't we, or?
No, I wouldn't say that we discuss everything as thoroughly as we probably could.
I think, so what I wanted to add to this conversation that I think will be really helpful. Last year had a lot of bumps in how we were running, and there was just a lot of controversy and lots of things. So I don't think that information was transferred in the right timing. in the right manner. So for example, one of the biggest piece of reasons we did this 2-vote policy was about weight raises. And it was, all of you did not have enough time to look at the budget and have a full understanding of any of that because it wasn't presented to you prior. Our board meetings were kind of chaotic at that moment. So I think that what you're gonna see that this is unnecessary. So for example, we met the financial committee met a few weeks ago. We talked about our budget. In that budget, we talked about district staff, so for Lexi and I, and ranges of wages that fit within that budget. Then therefore that they decide whether or not that range makes sense. They then take that range and they present it to the HR committee, to the board for approval. And then so it has a process, and then that process doesn't need you to have, because I did it in a way, in the right manner. We're talking about it in August, then we'll talk about it in September. You don't need to have a month to go back and rethink it. When we did that last year, I think I understood
That's what, I
why.
think that's what we kind of said
We-
when you were.
Yeah,
Yes,
we just discussed that when you
All
were
right,
out.
I'm
and
done
what-
talking.
what-
Yeah, we
what
already
we're
had it
gonna-
done. We were ready to vote.
All right,
I know.
So what we're gonna do, if there's a motion to change, just to change the policy.
I just
Yeah.
don't think. it
Well,
needs to
and
be
I
two
would
votes.
add just, I think we already have tools at our disposal as board members. If we don't feel like we have enough information, we can always put a motion to pen the conversation. So
We've got that.
yeah, there's no reason to have a vote and then,
Yes.
so, yeah, I make a
Because
motion that we eliminate the 2-vote
I'll
policy.
second.
All those in favor of the motion that's on the floor, say aye. Opposed, we're back to the 1 vote. Normal.
Sorry, that was Rivka and seconded by
Yeah.
Is that the only policy we need to change? All right, at this time? Oh,
This time,
That
I
is the
didn't,
fastest part of the agenda yet.
Human resources, work agreements.
yeah, so I put in your packets 3 work agreements and changed the names for the chairman. We have Keely Dunham, who is changing her role within the district from a coordinator role to, we have labeled her a program consultant. So she'll be training Will, as well as assisting through the next year with grant writing and advisory type role for us as we move forward.
1 second.
Yes, sir.
The meetings have kind of been getting away with us. Let's go back to a kind of a parliamentary procedure of, let's put a motion on the floor,
Okay, yeah,
and then we will, then
Talk
we'll
about it.
discuss that motion.
excellent.
And do it that way instead of everybody just blurting out and kind of doing an edgewise thing. So I will entertain a motion to approve, there we go, that's the word I was looking for. To approve, I'm looking for a motion to approve the work agreements.
So motion.
Any support?
Support.
You good?
Yep.
Is there any discussion? Megan, well, I guess, again, we have our work packet, we looked at it. Is there
Okay.
any discussion
Okay. yeah,
from the board members
I don't have to go through it all.
what the work agreement?
Hopefully, we're doing our jobs as board
Correct.
members and reviewing all the stuff you put
Yep.
effort into.
So therefore,
This is good.
is there any discussion?
Yeah,
Tim.
I have a question.
Yes.
She's just, it's a way to transfer to part-time. Is that the end goal?
Well, she's gone back to grad school.
Okay.
And Keely has been in her role for about a year. Her and Natalie had
Yeah.
shared this position. It's a pretty big role. And we have hired on Will to replace her and adjusted Natalie's work. So she's actually taking on more. And so Keely's role for just the next, foreseeable future was to assist and train Will till we, until that
Yep.
comes, but also then to help assist us with grant writing and project seeking, to have that person that you can bounce things off of. For Natalie just work really well together. Less than 10 hours a week, and it really will be based on need. And it will come out of the SISMA grants, not out of the district budget.
Now, can we do them all together, or do you need to do them individually? That's what,
I mean, I think I made a motion to approve the work agreement.
work agreements, perfect. So is there any more discussion on the 3 work agreements? If none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Hired.
Here,
Oh, sorry.
he did he went faster than you guys.
Draft review process.
Yeah, so I had included in your packet, and I think you can. Oh.
Or is it for information? Sorry,
It's,
I know this
yeah.
is a way different than what we're used to, but
Yes, I know.
you're right though. It's 8:45, that's what I'm looking at.
No, I think it's for information. I think that the HR committee can handle all this. And
Okay.
in all reality, I think we could probably just not even have more conversation about it, and I'll put it in HR committee's hands. How's that?
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Perfect.
It's just about the process. We're gonna do a draft, and I'll then have more
Right, so
conversation.
same thing with the financials, we need to make a motion to accept the reconciliations, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I made.
Well,
so-
reconciliations and payment of bills.
Yes, sir.
So motion.
Is there support?
Well,
No,
it's all
we're
in our
gonna- we're gonna-
packet.
Is there any support to that motion?
I just don't interrupt. I look at it, but I trust Megan's explanation, so it's hard for me to vote on that, just bang without.
No. All I need is a second so that we can talk about it and you can get the information from Megan.
And then she's
I'll
not,
support the talking about it.
All right, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Now here's where we turn into the
Yeah. I'm-
Megan can
I'm
give
good
us
with-
her-
I'm good with your policy,
her-
but I,
for end of, what is it? Close the doors.
that
numbers
way
and-
we can ask direct questions versus going through everything that we might not even have questions about.
I've already
Am I
done
correct,
it
Matt? And that's kind of the goal.
you have? Yep. Then I'm good. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Do you want to highlight something, Megan? I know you put a ton of work into this, so I don't want to sweep
Yeah,
your work
so
under the table, so.
I
but-
think for this part, this is always gonna look very similar for the paying of the bills. I will, I've added a few things. Okay, now let's just slow down a little bit. Yeah, let's slow down. The first thing that you see in your financial packet is you have seen regularly is our grant spreadsheet. I've added 2 pages. I'm gonna pull them out of yours.
I see that you had some more color. in
I
there.
do. One of the things that has been a struggle for Doug and I have been the flow of cash. And I also thought, it's not just Doug and I that struggle with this, it's all of us. So I wanted you guys to kind of see, this is gonna be a living document, and I'm only going a few months out, so really 2 to 3 months max. So you see this guy here, and there's 2 sheets because it just, Excel documents don't print very well. But the first one has August and September on it. You'll see at the top of that sheet, our column. So I have included the grants that right now I pull from, that we ask for funding from. So on this sheet, these are the grants that are active. That doesn't mean there's not more on here, just means they're not all active. These are the active ones I'm pulling from in September or August and September. That's it. What I did was I put on here the starting balance, and this is our savings and our checking. That's not what we have our close the door fund, but this is what we have available to us. And so I then put in the next column the reimbursements I see that I've already billed out for. That's what's coming in August right here, and you'll see those reimbursements. You'll also see the estimates of our payroll, our bills, our truck payments, all of that, and where we fall at the end of that month. So you'll see at the end of August, I should have somewhere around $76,000 in our account. This isn't exact science because other expenses can come up, but what I want to show you is that where our bank accounts are looking and how things flow. So then that pulls forward to the next month, and then you'll see there's some the next reimbursements that I forecast coming in September. Not as many. September is the end of a quarter, so there's a few, not as many reimbursements, but there are some, and then we have our expenses. So you'll see at the end of September, we will see a lower, much lower amount in our bank account. The lowest that we'll have at any point in time, most likely, is at the end of the fiscal year. And it's at 15,000. If you go to that next page, October, we refill that bucket, and we refill it really fast. Our reimbursement from the county comes in October, they will get it back to me in 3 days. So I don't have any hesitation on payroll. And then all of the other reimbursements that you'll see noted here, these are the ones I'll be asking for. They're rounded out because I have not reimbursed them yet. This is about as far out as I'm going to go for you guys each meeting, but I think it'll be really helpful for you to see. So October, we'll fill back up that bank account, and I'm going to continue to do this for us as we move forward. So November and December they're not accurate, but I can get you to October, and that will help you guys see the cash flow that we have, and I think that'll help you make decisions on when we decide to do something. We brought that cash flow down with the purchase of trucks. But we still have cash flow. So I just kind of I think that'll help you make decisions. So this is new, and I'm going to include it in all of that, all of your packets as we move forward. Doug and I we have more conversation on it to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything or that these are, accurate. But I think it might be helpful. So that's the idea. Of course, the most recent 2 months will be the most accurate.
I have a question, why does the payroll vary so much within a month or two?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because we get our
Yearly bonus?
retirement stipends at that point in time. So at the end of the quarters are when the staff gets all their stipend funds. And so that's what you're seeing there. As well as I have a new position coming in, most likely.
Yeah, but it goes back down for October, November.
It
so
does,
that's
because I'm
what
in the
triggered.
strike team.
Yeah. Then you're
Right,
catching
because
those all.
when, yep.
Okay. And then my next question is the truck payment. Why is the big jump from 2,000 to 25?
25,000.
Am I
Rent
not
and
reading right?
bills, and then
The second page for,
Truck payment under October goes to
Oh.
25,000. Is that
I think
a typo?
it's a line.
The line
I
adjustment.
looked at it and the lines are different.
yeah,
See,
you're right. I need to adjust that.
The line I think
Yeah,
you're
it's
looking at
just a mess.
$2,200.
I need to move it up.
And I believe the rent and bills are 25.
There you go. That
Yeah.
makes
So
more
where,
sense.
where it
But we
jumped
went
and went
over
wrong.
that, and
I didn't go this
that's what
far. I only
we
really
talked
talked
about.
I
about.
looked at
these
that
two
too, go, whoa,
Whoa.
paint went off, what?
I have
So-
one question. What is the USFS?
Frag.
What's that?
Yeah, so that was one that,
Phragmites.
Doug had asked me about. We have several projects through the SISMA that we partner with other conservation districts. And we partner with Muskegon Conservation District, and we have a grant to work on Phragmites in Muskegon Lake. And they have a portion that they need to utilize before the end of the fiscal year. Unless, of course, we extend this grant. If they can utilize it, that's how much it'll cost. It comes out of the grant, but it'll first come from us because we get to lend it before we get our bucket filled back up. I included it in here so that I don't think they'll spend this much. But if they did, that's how much they have left. Our hope is actually that we extend the grant, and we can do part of the work next summer too. But right now, that's not the case, and I want to account for what it could cost us if they are able to achieve those goals.
Well, we get to be everybody's bank.
But we get to keep the indirect. There's a lot of good in that comes out of that.
Well, I have to commend you for the way you set up your work for pay, what was that, fee for service and all that stuff to make it so that you can do that.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
Well, and that's, that you can commend the Madeline Keelan for that hard work, because that's really all on them. I mean, I manage the money that comes in and comes out, but all of the work was work that they put together and programs that I help advise, but they get the credit for that.
Good leader, good team.
Yeah.
Well, then, is it time to vote on them? Did we get all of our questions answered? Did we get all of our discussion discussed?
Well, the only other piece that also is included in your packet always is then you
Oh,
see the
sure.
actual profit and loss statements and the balance statement. I use that balance statement to help you come up with the close the door funds. And I've been working on our appropriation budget all month. So I think you'll be pleasantly surprised to see what our actual close the door funds are. If anybody actually
Not
noticed
bad,
that
I told her,
$100,
I said, we're gonna
$100,000
see
bump.
who's gonna notice that.
I watch
I
that
do
number
right
every
away.
month.
Yeah, and so it's quite a bit more than what I had initially thought.
yeah.
That's great.
But it's taken some time to get your right fingers on it, so
Just gonna go refigure.
I need to just continue. This is why it needs to be such this always needs to be my primary focus. 100%. With how big we are, and it's difficult to hold too many hats.
Perfect.
So that's that. And then you have the reconciliation, which shows you the bills I paid last month. They tend to be, most of them are similar and reoccurring. But if you have any questions on any of those, on any of that stuff, shoot, I'm happy to answer.
If there's no more discussion, we shall vote. All those in favor of paying the bills?
Aye.
Opposed? Good job. We need a motion to look at our letterhead change.
Yeah, so we had gone to the bank after our
We need a
finance.
motion
oh.
to see
I make
about
a
our letterhead
motion.
change.
I'll make a motion.
I know it's hard.
See
It's so-
about our letterhead change.
All right, a second motion.
Is there any discussion? Megan, what about this letterhead change?
Thank you, Matt. So Matt and Doug and I had gone to Chase Bank to add him onto our accounts, our savings and our checking. So currently we have Doug is on both our savings and our checking account. And I'm sorry, Matt would be then added to our savings. And we need to remove Dave Pyle. So we went to go do that. And they have put in some more red tape, or they have more regulations they have to follow. And we are actually registered to the state of Michigan as the Ottawa Soil and Water Conservation District. And our name changed, I don't know how many years ago. I can't pinpoint it. Nobody seems to know exactly when we changed to just Ottawa. But we need to change our letterhead to reflect that we are the Ottawa Soil and Water Conservation District.
It's not Ottawa, it's Soil, Water, Ottawa Conservation District.
Soil, Water, Ottawa Conservation District.
It's terrible.
Is that our legal name?
That's our legal
Yes.
name.
Can we change the legal name?
No,
It's not easy. It was,
we don't wanna do that.
actually, I think
We
it
can
might be
put
Ottawa
no-
Soil and Water. It is.
I'm gonna pull it up
No,
for you.
I'm
'cause
not
I texted
terrible.
to you,
Yeah,
didn't I?
it's like, oh.
I texted
So they
you.
need the letterhead to reflect the actual legal name.
That's what it is.
What we're registered as.
Yeah, they won't let us sign anything. She said, if I even try, it could lock the whole thing
Ottawa
up. And we were
Soil
like,
and
no,
Water.
no,
It
no,
is
no, we'll
Ottawa.
come back. Don't lock the thing up.
Is that what I wrote you?
No, but that's what it says. Let me get our business license.
Because I looked at the bank statement when I wrote.
Because the lady at the bank, what'd she say? She's been there for 43 years. And she said, yeah, she said, you know, and my name was on it from years ago when I was,
Yeah, and they wouldn't let them just go back.
and they still
on.
wouldn't let us just, it's like, well, come on, man, no, can't do it.
And I was surprised,
Legalities.
I was surprised, I'm on it. You need to see my ID so you can get it? No, I don't yet.
I still had
Yeah,
my
dude.
passport, my birth certificate, I had like 6 pieces
If
of
you look a little
ID.
suspicious.
Yeah, I know, I know.
Yeah, it is Ottawa. So Ottawa Soil and Water Conservation District.
That sounds a little better.
So that's what's on our
Okay,
state.
I believe you.
Doug stands for that.
We can be known as Ottawa Conservation District. We don't
Yeah,
have to change
you
our
gotta put it
logos
known.
and we don't have to change any of that stuff, but we do need to have it on our letterhead. And we
So
need to have
did
it
you
approved in the
make a mock one of
minutes.
these up so we could look at it? I mean.
I didn't. I actually was on
So I mean,
vacation
where
today.
would it
Yeah,
need to
where
change?
would we
Right
look
on
Can we
here.
just put it on the
It's gonna be
bottom in
right
the
on
small
top.
print,
It's
or
gonna
does
be-
it have to be
It's
up
gonna be
here?
up on top.
Because is there a reason we couldn't just change it with all the official information at the bottom of the letterhead? It's still on the letterhead.
Well, it needs to be in the minutes. So that's easy
Uh-huh.
enough, right? Um,
Here, she said, if we don't do it correctly, they will freeze our account.
Oh, yeah, we couldn't, we didn't want to touch
Right,
it.
well, I want to know what correctly means, because if
She
they
said
just
they need
said,
our legal name on
On
the
letterhead.
letterhead.
Not
So
on our
that-
agenda.
To me, that would, yeah.
oh, no,
on the
no, but
agenda.
to me, like, so letterhead can include this footer information as a standard part of the,
I could ask.
like, the letterhead, right? This is, this and
Mhm.
this is the letterhead.
Right, I could
That's
ask.
standard. Because if that seems like the smoothest change would just be to put the full name down there. And as long as it's compliant,
I could ask.
Let's stop a minute. Here's my question. If we're not proud of our name, what's wrong with it?
it's
It's
too
it's a
long.
mouthful. It doesn't.
It
look
just
pretty.
from so this is what this is what I
But
tell
it's
my
just letterhead.
clients.
We're not speaking about.
Do we
it.
have to permanently use the letterhead from henceforth, or can we just?
Just for
put
our
it
Just
on
for
the
banks.
one
Just for our
thing?
banks.
Just our meetings and our.
So I say put it on there.
That's why your mother
Yeah,
calls
I
you
do.
Timothy. and the rest
I
of
don't
us
want
are
to
Jim.
change, I don't want to change our
But I'm
name
Timothy,
or
legally.
logo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
because
no, we
from a
don't
market,
change
the
that.
only thing I'm concerned about is from a marketing
And
standpoint.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
The Ottawa
to
Conservation
both, right?
District is already long.
Only when you're in trouble, did
Right.
you get called Timothy.
Yeah, I might call a few other things too. We won't get into that.
All right, so what do you need from us to make your banking thing roll?
That we can, our official name through the state of Michigan is the Ottawa Soil and Water Conservation District, that we recognize that. And that we will change our letterhead for the bank to reflect that.
I
So
support.
technically, we only need one letterhead to show the bank, and then we can go back and just
No.
keep
Well,
on rolling with our other.
minutes have to be on it.
Has to be in our minutes.
Oh, we do
Like that permanently has to stay there?
That's,
Ottawa
that's
Soil
why
and Water.
I would suggest that we ask the bank if we add it to the bottom
If
of
that's
the
sufficient.
letterhead, if that's
Because
required.
Ottawa Soil and Water, thought it was small. Ottawa County. She
Sure.
told us to put known as the Iowa County Conservation District. Because we couldn't,
Because we didn't want to do a
Do the
DBA here,
DBA.
doing
We
business ads, that was
couldn't
bad.
do that.
All right,
So
so,
maybe I need to follow up with a few questions
Yeah. it sounds
and
like-
how.
So now you're gonna wait a minute, that's what you think, big deal. Yes, I do.
so that,
You
you
ain't getting
guys,
no money.
Well,
If it's in the
Big pile.
minutes, though, you
You
can
can
make
go
those
see-
changes without having to bring it back to the board.
you are
Yeah.
right. You are
You
correct.
what?
If it's in the minutes as being approved, she can make whatever changes the
correct.
bank wants without having to bring it back.
Oh, yeah.
We can reflect that, here's some
why we have
suggestions,
you
whatever the bank approves, we approve.
But he's gotta be
And I'll
really
ask
so you
those
sign it, then
And I won't
do
use.
you
that
have all
letterhead
that,
except
what
for
you need
bank.
for your minutes? Don't start crying. I know, you have what you need.
So what I have is, motion for letterhead change and formally recognizing legal name of the Ottawa Soil and Water Conservation District. So the board is formally recognizing that, and that it will be added to the minutes letterhead.
Perfect.
Is that?
That's what we need is.
Mhm.
right?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yay.
Do we have to vote on that?
So,
yes.
yes, that is the motion that is on the table. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. That's what we're called.
Now, the rest of these notes seem to be unrelated to that question. Are we discussing this? Is
Yes.
this,
So I included my notes for you all, so that you kind of know where my head was going. I can just see that you,
I don't see that.
okay, so let's start from the beginning. We're gonna talk about the appropriation budget, and I'm just gonna kind of go over that with you briefly, as we have already gone through the details of this with the finance committee. I included that agenda in your board packet, so you kind of saw what we went through and the notes that we took as, or not notes, but the bullet points that we've touched on. We had those conversations, so that I don't particularly, I want you guys to know that we went through each line item. So in your board packet, the first thing you're gonna see is your draft budget. You guys all have that?
So if you got a printer with like dazzling colors. on
And
it,
I think color helps. I don't know. It helps me. It might not help anyone.
It helps me.
So the draft budget, what do you see here is you'll see what our fiscal year 22 budget was proposed as. And then what our actual budget has come in at to date, and whatever I could this will change at the end of the October. There are some things that's going to change on the actual budget because we still have another month. But I would project if I knew what it was going to be, and if I didn't, then I left it at actual numbers. So you'll see all the state funds that are coming in. We actually have brought in more state funds than I had allocated for. So we're going to have to we'll have to make an amendment to approve that. And we brought in less federal funds than we had anticipated, but that's probably going to change based on BRDC in the end of this quarter. So I think we might hit it. We've done exactly what we knew we were going to do with contributions from local units. That's the county. Charges for services, or anything we charge, or anything we're not the fiduciary on. So it could be, there are lots of, let's see an example, the Macatawa Area Coordinating Council, all that funding we bring in from them, we aren't the fiduciary. So I consider that charges for services. We provide a service, they pay us for the service, even though it's a grant on their end. It's not a grant on my end, if that makes sense. That's where that money goes. Interest on our bank accounts, piddly. Pre-sale, what we brought in for revenue on this tree plant, we still have one more plant sale, so I'll go up a little bit. And then I have other revenue, and that was the truck sales. So you'll see up to today, we brought in $1,314,000, I'm sorry, $961.25. You'll also see that as you go down through the expenses, what we've actually spent in each line item. So these are all our programs and any funding stream I have used over the last year, or we have used. And then that's where we are today. In September, when we come to this will be complete. And we are going to make an amendment to the fiscal year 22 budget to match what we actually spent. Best practice is that I have an eye on this every quarter, and that we don't find ourselves over in any categories at any point in time. But
What can you do to change it at that point?
then we would have to approve, we'd have to just approve the new appropriations budget. So when I get another grant, which I'm sure I will this year, I need to bring this budget to you. We need to just say, I'm adding in the new grant, which we have done once or twice already. You would say, okay, I approve, I amend, and then it would become official. And we did that with,
So it's been a couple of years since we had to go in and give ourselves more money, or allocate more money. We've always.
usually I've gone over.
Yes.
This,
So
I'm
that's
getting
why
closer
we've
to
never had do
perfect
that.
numbers. It's actually super helpful though. If we do this right, one thing that I'm finding is that this is your closer to our budget. This right here reflects what we actually have. This is unnecessary if you're doing this correctly. But it's been a while. This isn't a simple process. And so, and because there was a lot as I came in this door that I didn't understand, or I didn't really know the balance of the budget when I walked in here. This was a tough number to come to, but I think I'm pretty close.
So I'm guessing you did have those in your head for a long time.
I did. And so fiscal year 23 is what we're working on. That's what's coming. We went through each one of these numbers. And this is what we're bringing in today. This is what I have contracts signed on today. There will be additions to this budget because we have grants out there that I foresee that we will receive. So there will be additions and there will be extra spending as we go through. So that is going to change. But as far as September goes, this will be what you're looking at as we go into the appropriations. The piece that I need for you guys to take a look at and then to go back to the finance committee with, if you have any questions on, would be then the district budget. So you'll see on this first line, operations, this is the number that we have control of, and this is the number that is the district's operating budget, what it costs us to keep our doors open at current capacity. We look at an operating budget up to this year at about $218,000. And next year, we're looking at something around $235,000. So you'll see this next budget in your packet, this guy here, with what I actually have spent this year or what I project to spend as we go forward. And then what we have talked about could be the budget for next year. So we went through those numbers. Several things, this is where my notes come into play, that I wanted to point out when you look at this budget. And this is just for you guys to take home, think about, and then you're gonna come back to the, you talk to Matt and to Doug about any changes you'd like, if you want to see made, and then they can discuss that and decide. At September's meeting, I'd like to have this all ironed so we can just move forward. So some of the notes on here I have were the financial, the wages increase you see in there is the cost of living allocation, which at fiscal year 23, we're looking at a 10.5% increase, which is nuts. I did a 10% increase, but so not quite the 0.5, but that's where that's the only piece you see in there that's different than, it wasn't a raise based on anything else. I did give the finance committee some information on a range of wages for an executive director and like the years of service and the amount of responsibility type of thing. We're really mostly in that range. We're a little bit on the lower end, but it's not a bad thing. But I wanted to give them that information so they had tools in their pocket to know how to make decisions. And then what they'll do is they'll come up with a range that they'll recommend to the HR committee, and then that will be presented to the board. So that's kind of all that says here. I just tried to like lay that out into how I thought that the best way to do that, so there's no surprises and that everybody has input. So any of you that have any input, please talk to Doug and Matt about that. So that and then Rivka and Doug can have those conversations after they do the evaluation. So how they want to handle things. Also, you'll include then on that second, in that district budget, just a few other notes I made under admin, includes the parental leave as well as a full-time admin for the remainder of the year. So whether that is Lexi, whether that is someone different, that is budgeted in here. Another note I wanted to make was this year, we had some conversations about bonuses. That's something that has come up in the past. We have done a year-end bonus. Our staff grows, it's getting it's really expensive. So how can we do this in a way that makes sense? We had a really neat thought. So the next thing, I'm giving you a lot of information, so don't hate me. You'll see this sheet here. It talks about fringe rates. So I want to talk about fringe. When I charge grants for funding, I have two line items on my grant spreadsheets, typically, not all, but typically, where I charge for salary and I charge for fringe, and they allow a certain percentage of the grant to be included in fringe. Fringe includes all of these items here you see. They include our unemployment percentage, which is part of something we have to pay into. They include our Social Security and Medicare. It includes our workman's comp amount. Then it has our stipends in here and sick and vacation. Those are things I account for in the fringe so that we're accumulating that through the whole year. And when the staff uses it, it's in our budget. We have it. It's in our, if we can pay for those things. So that's how I get funding for their stipends, is out of this fringe rate. One of the things that these guys brought up, which I thought was kind of ingenious, well, and would make perfect sense, is to include these bonuses in the fringe rate. If I do that, I can increase their bonuses from 500 a year to 1,500 a year at a very minimal fringe rate of 2.62%. And I'm still under 25%. All of the grants would allow for this. MDARD's a little different. Their grants are different, but then I'd have to budget for it. But the others would allow for it. And I think it's a neat way for us to pull out of that so that we can get bonuses not coming out of our own pocket. So the only bonuses that would come out of our pocket would be then for myself and for the administrator. And which then would decrease that budget. I couldn't do it this year because we haven't been doing it all year. But that's what I'd like to, I think that was a great idea and I'd like to see us do it.
Basically, it goes from the conservation district paying it to the
Yes.
grants. So
Right.
Mostly.
Before we were always paying.
Yeah.
And it's not, and depending on what we want to do. So I budgeted
and I think the employee gets
more.
gets a better percentage. I mean, because
they'll
if
get
we
more.
give it to them as a bonus, that gets.
We
nicked like
can't afford
40.
$1,500 for
We're gonna
12
put it
people. We
spread
can't
out
afford
during
that.
the year.
So
more.
they won't pay taxes on it like a bonus. Bonus, they get taxed like over
Mhm.
50%, where if it's in their paycheck, they just pay their normal weekly.
Mhm.
So
It'll be a
actually,
better,
the
rate.
employee gets almost 3 times the bonus, so to speak, but he gets it every week.
I think it's a really neat idea.
And it comes from somebody else, not us.
Is it line item in their check as a bonus?
No,
No.
so, okay, so this is the problem. I think you're a
Line
little,
item
that's a
doesn't.
little not
Yeah.
quite right.
we're giving off a bonus more.
If I give a bonus, no matter how I give it, a stipend is considered a bonus. So healthcare and retirement, those are considered bonuses. They are taxed at that higher percentage rate, always, and they still will be. It's not gonna change. We have done our bonuses in the past through gift cards. Which for a while worked out really well. But now with regulations, they don't like me going into Meijer and buying $6,000 worth of gift cards. It's really, really shady. So I feel like I could get arrested every time I do it.
Well, you gotta go to 6 different stores.
Yeah, or to do that, which all feels all bad. Like, I'm like, so it's, unfortunately, I think that I might have to go that route where I'm gonna have to run it through payroll. We'll see how we feel this
What
year.
about cash? Do you have any access to just cash?
It gets shady. If I can't pull
Huh?
cash out of,
No.
yeah, I really can't. It
Not
just gets
really.
shady.
No,
We
I
just, we
say
can't.
just give them a check. It's a bonus. I
And
mean, I
and-
get my bonuses, they all taxes come out.
Yeah, it is the right way for me to do it.
Yeah, Gotta be legit.
So it ended by increasing it. They're still getting more.
Alright.
So wasn't quite the exact, that, I know you were super excited about that, sorry.
At least we came up with a good idea.
It was a great
so good idea.
Well, our employees get a lot bigger.
Yeah.
You get more money.
So,
So this year, what I
In
budgeted
the
for
end,
was the
that's-
same that we did last year. I budgeted for 300 for all of the forest pest technicians and 500 for everyone else. So that's what I came up with, and that's where the $7,800 came from. You guys can think on that through the next month, how you want to do it. It doesn't have to go that route. If you guys want to change things, I'm okay with that. But that's where that number came from. As we move forward, I'd like to pull it out of their fringe. The next note I made was marketing. That was one that you guys have, all of you have brought to my attention in the past. A lot of our marketing right now comes from grants, so you won't see it in this budget, but we did allocate money towards marketing, so that we can continue to expand that. We also added money to apparel because we feel like that is such a nice place to add value for staff. It's nice to be able to do those sweatshirts, to give that free cap, to that type of thing. So we did budget a little more in apparel, so they have their.
and that is part of market.
And it's part of
part of
Yeah.
market,
it
yes.
does kind of fall into that. So that was a note I wanted you to make. So yeah, those are the basics that's why I put this in here, just so you had some of the notes behind why I did what I did. Postage is very similar in the sense that most postage, if it's for a project, comes out of a grant. This postage really is for paying bills and elections, and we don't have an election this year, so I probably over budgeted for postage. That's what that's for. So I'm gonna let you guys kind of go home with this, digest it, talk to Matt and to Doug, or you're free to talk to me too, but decisions need to go through them. If you have questions, ask me. I'm happy to like talk more about where I came up with these numbers. A lot of it was really just taking a look at what we've done and what we might need as we move forward. Oh, and the other piece that's in there that wasn't in there in the past is we are I'm putting money away to replace a boat motor that we need to replace on one of our boats, our only boat, not one of them. So that's,
We don't want them up a creek without.
Is our boat over here?
it is.
I didn't. Look.
So just.
I like that boat. I keep coming in that. I fixed the motor on the last one. Go out to work and we rebuilt the whole drivetrain.
All right. So that's it. That was just information for you. I added